NewsHour Special Edition.
Well, Times Now's campaign, Reopen Kashmir Files, is resonating. After 32 years, the Kashmiri Hindus who were butchered and hounded out of their own homelands have now found a voice which fights for them. While there is a sustained attempt by the enablers of the genocide to not just absolve themselves and bury the patronage given to dreaded terrorists, but now they have targeted the film Kashmir Files, calling it insightful and full of inaccuracies. However, with mounting evidence of these atrocities and the cover-up, which has been brought to light by Times Now, a plea now has been filed with the President to reinvestigate the cases and punish the Holocaust enablers as well.
Yes, if you see, since last 30 years, Kashmiri Hindus are still waiting for justice. If we talk about the way investigation, there certain FIR has been lodged. I think 215 FIR has been lodged in this particular incident, which has happened in 90s. But nothing has been come out from this FIRs. The investigation has been taken place in very haphazard manner. They cannot make their complaint, they cannot make their statement to the police official or the administration. They have not given a proper platform to make their complaint and statements. So I requested to set up an SIT and give opportunity to all Kashmiri Hindus, those who are victim of that particular incident in 1989-90s, to make their statement, make their complaint.
And now here, the rattled ecosystem trying to bury the truth and target the film instead.
उसमें तरह तरह के झूठ दिखाए गए हैं बिलखसूस उस वक्त की हुकूमत के बारे में। हकीकत ये है कि जब ये वाक़ये हुए, जब कश्मीरी पंडित यहाँ से निकल गए, उस वक्त फारूक अब्दुल्ला वज़ीर आला नहीं था, उस वक्त गवर्नर राज था, जगमोहन साहब गवर्नर थे, वीपी सिंह साहब की हुकूमत थी, और वीपी सिंह की हुकूमत के पीछे कौन खड़ा था? बीजेपी।
तो केंद्र में वीपी सिंह सपोर्टेड बाय बीजेपी थी और स्टेट में उन्हीं का नुमाइंदा गवर्नर था। वहाँ के गवर्नर को हटा के नया गवर्नर भेजा था और उसी दौरान ये पलायन हुआ। तो उसकी तो इंक्वायरी होनी चाहिए, कौन उसमें था, क्या गवर्नर इन्वॉल्व था या गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया थी?
देखिए, हम हिंदुस्तान के अंदर प्यार मोहब्बत गंगा जमनी तहजीब के मुल्क में रहते हैं। थिएटर के अंदर ऐसे नारे लगते हैं कि जो फिजा को खराब कर रहे हैं। फिल्म देख के मुसलमानों के खिलाफ नारे लग रहे हैं, लोग एक दूसरे से लड़ रहे हैं। क्या यही तहजीब थी हमारी?
Meanwhile, the BJP calls out the opposition, slams the bid to bury the Kashmir genocide truth.
कश्मीर के क्रिमिनल के खिलाफ क्रिमिनल कॉन्स्पिरेसी के कुनबे का कोताहल इस बात का प्रमाण है कि कश्मीर फाइल ने कई कश्मीर के गुनाहगारों की फाइलें खोल दी हैं, बंद फाइलें फिर से खुल गई हैं। इसलिए आप कोताहल देख रहे हैं उन लोगों में, उसका जो है वो तर्क देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, कुतर्क देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इस कश्मीर फाइल ने कश्मीर के कई गुनाहगारों की फाइलें, बंद फाइलें खोली है।
संपूर्ण दुनिया को पता है कि आखिरकार हिंदुओं के पलायन के लिए उनके ऊपर आक्रमण करने वाले कौन लोग थे और कौन सी सत्ता, सरकार, राजनीतिक दल और नेता थे जो कि उस पलायन को हवा दे रहे थे, हिंदुओं को मजबूर कर रहे थे, उनके मंदिरों पर हमला करने वालों को प्रोत्साहित कर रहे थे। चाहे बात शेख अब्दुल्ला की करो, फारूक अब्दुल्ला की करो, या अब ये मुस्तफा ने तो कमाल ही कर दिया।
You're watching the NewsHour Special Edition, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Well, joining us today on the show, Lalit Ambardar, an activist, also Sheikh Amir, leader of the Congress Party. But before I come to you, gentlemen, I'd like you to look at certain facts. Here on Times Now, we are sifting through details of the last 32 years of a cover-up. So sample some of this on your screens. betrayed by the then Rajiv Gandhi government. How? Because in 1988, Rajiv Gandhi had allegedly said Jammu and Kashmir situation is bad, but what do? Farooq Abdullah is my friend. So he clearly put his friendship over the lives of Hindus. It was flagged up in 1988. In 1996, this at a time when you had a government of the Congress party, Congress's Rao government, which was in place, where you had a centre's affidavit to the NHRC which said Hindus migrated of their own accord, and it was self-imposed, can't tag them as internally displaced people or as refugees. Then later on in 1997, this is a centre's submission to the NHRC. It's also important to note that this is Congress's outside support which is given to the Gujarat government, which filed this affidavit, where they said the government's view of the term migrant is more appropriate for those Hindus who left the Kashmir Valley, and restoration of any property or compensation is not possible. So now the question is, and also let's also remind our viewers how Rajiv Gandhi, at the time when he was at the centre, there were 70 dreaded terrorists which were released by the Farooq Abdullah government. 70 of these terrorists who were released later on, they are the ones who were engineering and carrying out most of the attacks on the Hindus in the valley. So my first question to Sheikh Amir. First, it was a whitewash of the genocide by your party, and you cannot shirk any onus out of that. But now you're even silencing the truth, silencing a film about this genocide and trying to intimidate it, ban it.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead, Mr. Sheikh Amir. Today, hopefully, we'll get some straight answers from the Congress.
Yes, see, we are not against the movie if it is shown to show the pain and the sufferings of Kashmiri Pandits. I see almost every news channel is trying to promote this movie. I feel the pain of Kashmiri Pandits, how they have suffered in Kashmir, but it's unfortunate. It pains me, why are you dividing us? Why? I feel I have seen this movie, and this movie is against, this film is against Kashmiri Muslims. This film is against the Jammu and Kashmir police, who has fought the Pakistani sport.
Sheikh Amir, I'm sorry, you are contradicting yourself. You said you are not against the movie. However, your own leaders, Jairam Ramesh, says that Kashmir File doesn't inspire, but it incites. Propaganda has twisted the facts, distorted history. Is it that uncomfortable truth which is getting you so rattled?
Let me correct. I said I'm not against any movie if it is showing.
But your party leaders are.
Sufferings.
They've called for a ban on the movie.
But it is not. It is a propaganda. It's a propaganda. Let me finish, please.
Who's propaganda? By the victims?
I've been on your debate since last 2 days. I'm not allowed to speak. Please, today, let me speak. See, you talked about all the governments in place that time, but you didn't talk about VP Singh government. You didn't talk about the Jagmohan who was put in place by VP Singh government here and supported by the BJP. And what we are saying, we are not, we feel the pain. दर्द इस बात का है.
इतना दर्द है तो उनको रेफ्यूजी स्टेटस क्यों नहीं दिया? गवर्नमेंट ऑफ नरसिम्हा राव, वो तो आप ही की थी ना. उसके बाद कांग्रेस सपोर्टेड government also said no, we cannot, I'm sorry, we cannot give any compensation, can't restore your property. इतना दर्द है तो उनको रेफ्यूजी स्टेटस तो बोल देते. आज तक जेनोसाइड वर्ड भी यूज नहीं किया.
Let me tell you, लहू बहा है. हाथ में वक्त उतर आए हैं अदाकारी पे. लोग मजबूर हैं जालिम की तरफदारी. ये तो अदाकार हैं. क्या इनको अभी कोई बात कर रहा था? You are saying that this movie has opened all the files of Kashmiri.
ये तो अदाकार है, ललित अंबरदार. ये तो अदाकार है. How would you like to respond as someone who's seen the pain of the Kashmiri Hindus?
I'm not surprised. I maintain, Nehru and Congress, for Nehru and Congress, Hindu lives never mattered. Hindu lives do not matter. In the contemporary sense, beginning with the Mopla massacre of Hindus, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi almost condoned it. It was any Besant who had to rebuke him literally. It's a historic fact. Our children aren't taught this. After that, this no Khali, that was direct action by Jinnah's Razakars, who were at that time Indians. In 1946, those who perpetrated genocide in Bengal at the behest of Jinnah's two-nation theory, massacred Hindus for days. Hindu bodies were eaten by animals and birds. On Congress, instead of talking about it. They surrendered to Jinnah's two-nation theory, which was what? Supremacy and exclusivity of Islam, and to let partition happen. Then just imagine what happened on 14th of this. Mr. Gentleman was talking about somebody gave a bite, Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb. Let me remind him and this gentleman out here, how did Pakistan come into being? 14th of August, 1946, 2047, India-born millions, I repeat, India-born millions chose to support Jinnah's two-nation theory in the name of Islam and voted for Pakistan in provincial elections of 1946. Pakistanis did not vote for heaven. They were Indians till 14th of January 1946. It was Islamists, jihadists amongst us who divided the nation. Number two, what happened later on? What does Nehru and Congress do? Knowing Pakistan was created for Muslims and Muslims alone, we abandoned Hindus and Sikhs. 25% was the population of Hindus and Sikhs in East and West Pakistan. You know what's happening there today? 1.5% reduced to Hindus and Sikhs there because of genocide, and 9% in Bangladesh. And this gentleman, no, let me speak. This gentleman is not touched. Pakistan was talking about Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb yesterday on the day of Holi. The ISKCON temple was destroyed by jihadists Bangladesh. They are quiet. They are quiet about it. Similarly, in Kashmir, when Nehru signed Liaquat Ali Pact, you do to take care of your minorities, we'll take care of our minorities. At the same time, Nehru gives Article 370 and 35A to Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, created a quasi-Islamic state, mini Pakistan on the soil of India.
Sheikh Amir, you are getting lessons in history. But even if you were to set the history lessons straight, Sheikh Amir, you say your heart is bleeding for the Hindus who've been hounded out of their homelands. Today, will you on national television join Times Now's campaign to reopen the Kashmir file? Today on national television, will you say, yes, indeed, injustice was carried out and this was a genocide? Will you accept that, Sheikh Amir? If your heart's bleeding for the Kashmiri Hindus, maybe you can show it.
Not at all. We don't need Congress's heart.
Not only, let me speak. Mr. Dar doesn't know about history. He doesn't know about the Indian history or the history of Jammu and Kashmir. My heart bleeds for...
JNU history.
Please let me speak. Don't intervene. Don't intervene. See, my heart bleeds for not only Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Muslims, Kashmiri Sikhs, all those people who got killed just for holding the flag.
I asked you a straight question, Sheikh Amir. If your heart's bleeding for them, will you fight with your own party, ask them to accept that yes, indeed, it was a genocide? Will you say that it was wrong, historical wrong, to have not allowed them the tag of refugee or internally displaced people? Will you accept that?
My point of contention is, why I'm getting emotional on this, that my point of contention is what pains me is to see it's not between us and they. Why are you trying to divide us? This film has come up.
Lalit Ambardar, perhaps you can explain. What Congress today is asking, why are you getting emotional? It's been 32 years. Why are the Kashmiri Hindus emotional? ये अदाकारी क्यों? इनके words है. Lalit Ambardar, perhaps you can explain to him.
They are mocking genocide. They are mocking genocide, and that makes them collaborators of genocide as per the UN Convention of Genocide.
So killing of 1 lakh Kashmiri Muslims is not genocide. What do you mean?
I tell you what. Oh, good you said. Good you said. Listen, as long as Kashmir continues to produce Burhan Wanis, Sayyid Ali Shah Gilanis, Yasin Malik, they are bound to die. Because they raise gun against India.
No, here on Times Now, we have a very direct question to ask to the Congress.
You are a separatist.
If you say that it was wrong, that Hindus were hounded out, will Congress today accept the historical wrongs done by their party?
Demonizing the whole...
Sheikh Amir, who's being demonized? Today, when there is a movie which is coming out about the Kashmiri Hindus, and there are Kashmiri Hindus who are coming out on our cameras day in, day out here on Times Now, we are getting their stories to you, raw, unedited footage, their emotions are unedited. Sheikh Amir, today you said, ये तो सारे अदाकार है.
मैंने कहा फिर से सुनिए, हाकिम वक्त उतरा है अदाकारी पे, लोग मजबूर हैं जालिम की तरफदारी पे, जालिम लोग हैं, ये बात कर रहे हैं कश्मीर आइए, यहाँ के मुसलमानों से,
कौन जालिम है?
जिनके
कौन जालिम है? शेख आमिर कौन जालिम है?
गुजरात फाइल्स भी खोल दीजिए.
कौन जालिम है?
के तौर पे हर एक लगाओ.
जालिम कौन कौन है शेख आमिर? कौन जालिम है?
The current regime, the fascist and Nazi regime.
Those who are asking for justice, वो जालिम है? जो बोल रहे हैं कि at least reopen those files, at least bring them to book. They are way too emotional for you.
Let's not judge by the film. Let there be an inquiry. Let's see who is the culprit. Thank him.
Will you reopen? Then join Times Now's campaign to reopen the Kashmir Files.
Yes.
I asked you, Sheikh Amir, will you stand and on national television say the Kashmir Files should be reopened? They should reprobe all the cases. Sheikh Amir.
There should be an inquiry. Let's see who is the main culprit. Let's see who did it. Let's see who was hand in glove with the terrorists.
Well, there are some pictures that we can put out of Manmohan Singh, the then Prime Minister, in 2006 having a 1 hour long meeting with a man of the JKLF who masterminded several of these conspiracies against Hindus, butchered many of the Hindus. There was a meeting which happened with your then Prime Minister. Those pictures speak louder than words. Sheikh Amir, I'm sorry. If you say your heart bleeds for the Kashmiri Hindus, perhaps you too should join Times Now's campaign to reopen the Kashmir Files. Instead of rhetoric, let's put the facts out. We are running out of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Lalit Ambardar as well as Sheikh Amir for joining us here on the show. But this is a Times Now campaign and it's going to be relentless in its pursuit of truth.
The News Hour Special Edition will be right back after this break.